All right, we are live. We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let me just check settings real quick. Looks good. Audio looks good. Video looks good. Excellent. Hello. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here on another fantastic Sunday or Monday, depending on where in the world you are. Welcome. Hello, Babab. Hello, Patricia. Hello, Steph. Excellent. 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 Parity Plus, JT. Hi. Hello, Jenny. Marissa. Kim. Welcome. Long time no see. Hello, Mina. Wonderful. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. As always, I like to give it 30 seconds to a minute or so, let people get notified, come on in, get comfortable, and then we will jump into Q&As. I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend so far. I hope you are staying warm if you're at least up in the northern hemisphere where it's uh, quickly turning into winter. Hello. Hello, Rini. Hello, Luna. Danielle. See a lot of new faces in here as well. Welcome. Thank you for being here. As always, let me know if there is any buffering issues or audio issues, but there shouldn't be. On my end, it should look good. Northwest Wind. Hello, sir. Welcome. Fantastic. Oh my goodness, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much, Solder. Well, on that note, we should probably go ahead and get started. We've got about 60 or so people. That number will grow. And already a good number of questions that have rolled on in. So, yeah, let's jump on in again. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for being here and joining me on this lovely Sunday morning or afternoon, evening, wherever you may be, for another round of live Q&As. This is where we get to hang out and talk all things law of assumption, conscious manifestation, so that you can have maybe a clearer perspective and better understanding to apply these teachings into your life. Just a quick few things. I got a number of things to note as far as my masterclasses. I have a new masterclass that I just released, Master Your Imagination. This is really catered to understanding and strengthening our imagination muscle. It's not really a muscle, but it is very much akin to a muscle in that we want to practice strengthening it and exercising it and priming it so that we can become more deliberate and more disciplined in this practice. And it comes with a lot more practical resources, sort of step-by-step things that you can do, a lot of exercises that specifically aim to strengthen that imagination muscle. Also going into things like the hypnagogic state, mastering SATs, understanding different types of imagination, because we have predominantly two types of imagination that we use. Anyways, you can find more information about it down below. And I'm also, as I do when I release a new masterclass, I have a 30% discount going on for that course and my other courses as well, my other masterclasses as well. So if you haven't had a chance to jump on board or check it out, all that information is below. We've had a little bit of a surge in subscribers lately. So if you're new here, hello, you can definitely check out more information about that below. That will be going on, that 30% off will be going on for the next handful of days. And of course, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, make sure you're on my wait list because that will be opening up next week. So it'll be the last time before the holidays, arguably the last time for this year. Anyways, all that aside, let's go ahead and get started. Revision in SATs is so powerful. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, let me go up to the top. Hello, Missy. We know that normal dreams are feedback, but what about lucid dreams or astral projection? Good question. I mean, lucid dreams are dreams that we are conscious of, right? We're conscious of the fact that we are dreaming, right? That's really the only main difference. We're aware that this is a dream that we're having, so we're more in control, so to speak. Um, so yeah, it's I mean they're all different states of consciousness, right? Um, I'm a little bit confused by your question. Are you asking like what are the meanings of those, or why do they happen? Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. But I mean, everything that we're experiencing is feedback into what state of consciousness we're occupying, right? Whether we're deliberate with what state we move into or not, whatever we're experiencing is going to be correlated to whatever state of consciousness we dominantly occupy. Hi, Missy. Can you talk about inspired action versus messing with the middle? I ran into SK again this weekend, but I consciously knew there was a chance of it. I was calm with whatever outcome. However, felt like I didn't care when I saw him. Tons of other guys flirted with me, and once he saw, he stared but didn't leave. I approached and we had a good talk and hugged. I know inspired action is supposed to be subconscious, and I consciously chose to take the chance, but is it automatically messing with the middle if I was calm and peaceful without holding on to an outcome? Thanks. Yeah, mm, so inspired action versus messing with the middle. Um, like you mentioned there, inspired action is subconscious. So we're not going to be aware that this is like a lead into the bridge of events, right? It's going to be, typically speaking, it's very not deliberate or yeah, unconscious action that leads to the unfolding of what we are desiring or manifesting. Messing with the middle is really when we just condition our desire. That's more of messing with the middle. It's when we put conditions on what we are imagining, what we are trying to manifest, for lack of better words. We put conditions on it based on the 3D circumstances or you know ways in which we don't think it's possible or reasonable to happen. So, for example, um, you know, I can't manifest my person because there's a large distance between us, or because we haven't talked in 2 years. You know, I need to be perfect first before I can manifest him back. These types of things are conditions, and it's basically when we're not allowing ourselves to just go to the end in imagination. That's more of messing with the middle, because we're told to go to the end in imagination because we're not needing to worry about how to get from here to there physically. That's not our job. That's not our job. So, I mean, um, as far as what you mentioned is as far as what happened with you there. I mean, it really, I can't read into what state that you are occupying, but so long as you are persistent in that end state, so long as you are fixed in the knowing that it is done, um, yeah, things will unfold for you. However, that needs to happen. I hope that made sense. Also, thank you again, Sauter, for the super chat. I'm so sorry, the notification went away. You are a ray of sunshine, you beautiful soul inside out. Oh, thank you, Spencer. You are too kind, sir. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions or anything that I can answer for you, but thank you so much. Also, thank you, Sarah, for the super chat. Thank you again for doing these live sessions. We appreciate. Oh, thank you. You guys are so sweet. Thank you. means a whole lot. Thank you guys. My absolute pleasure. I love being here. This is my favorite time of the week, is hanging out with all you lovely folk, talking about the law. I absolutely love it. Hi, Missy. How do I go about manifesting one thing that multiple people desire? For example, like an auction where it's one spot, but there are 100 people uh, auditioning and everyone works so hard for it. Good question. I mean, in your reality, through your experience, um, it's whatever you assume, it's whatever you imagine. Uh, so we don't need to concern ourselves with competition, because competition's not an actual thing. It's not a real thing. Um, I mean, if we assume that there's competition, then that will be the case for us. But objectively speaking, that's not a real thing. So long as we imagine and accept that we, using your example, like we win at the audition, like we win at the auction, um, that's what will unfold for us. Other people in your reality don't have the power to like veto you or override what you are trying to manifest. That's not an inherent thing. No. It's not a real thing. Competition is not a real thing. Not objectively speaking, no. Missy, have you ever had a moment when manifesting your SP that you felt like, F it, I'm going to confess my feelings to him? I feel like that often. I just want to blurt it out. How do we deal with impatience? Good. Yeah. Yeah, this is something. I mean, I certainly have these moments naturally. I think most people can relate to what you're describing. Um, and it's not to say that we can't take some sort of action in 3D. Like, I'm not saying that we can't do that, because what we don't want to do either is hold ourselves back out of fear that we're messing with the middle or something like that. Um, Again, you can do whatever you like. You are the operant power. um, we do want to be mindful of what state we are dominantly occupying. Like, what are the first thoughts and beliefs and reactions that we have when thinking about a state? Like, what are the first things that we're noting when they come up in our mind? And if it's, if there's still perhaps anxiousness or frustration or anger or anything like that, I would be mindful taking action from those states, from that mindset. But um, how do we deal with impatience? Practice taking your attention away from the 3D. The more that we keep fixing on out here, it's going to become stronger and stronger. The attachment to 3D and what's going on here is going to continue to feel stronger and stronger. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if you feel like you are in a place that like this feels like it's the right thing to do, I mean, again, you're the operant power. Right? I hope that makes sense. But basically, if we're noting impatience in those moments, that is feedback. That is our cue that we are not in that moment, at least living in the end. That at least those moments when that comes through, we want to first move ourselves back into that state of the wish fulfilled, right? So I would note that first, and yeah, yeah, note that first. Any tips to actually start allowing and receiving what I'm playing out in my imagination? I feel resistance to actually allowing people to show up differently. It's almost like I sabotage myself. Yeah, yeah. And self sabotage is 100% ego. It's a form of ego backlash, and sounds like what's going on here. Um, the resistance or that you know that pushback to the idea of people showing up differently is because to the ego there's an inherent dislike for change. It could be difficult for us to imagine somebody showing up differently. Um, yeah, yeah. And as far as tips to actually allow and receive, uh, this is a practice of first allowing yourself to do it in imagination. In imagination. So not first with the focus of trying to get something in 3D, but just practice it, having the experience that you would like to have in 3D, but first in imagination. And just continuing to do that for the pure sake of getting familiar with that experience, getting familiar with that inner experience, right? So this is not anything to do with the 3D, right? At least for this part of it, for this getting acclimated to a new state of consciousness in here. This is all about practicing giving ourselves whatever that might be. Like if you still notice resistance, then play around with perhaps things that feel more realistic to you, things that might feel more reasonable, um, things that you can imagine more easily, like maybe an acquaintance or coworker showing up and acting different, and then letting yourself get familiar with that. Basically, in the circumstance or scenario that you gave, you just want to practice, generally speaking, getting familiar with people show up differently, or that it's possible for people to show up differently in my reality, in my world, right? So I hope that makes sense. Maybe start with things that feel less resistance or more believable, and just continue to condition it from there. Yeah. I love you too, Yara. Welcome, Mills on YouTube. Happy to have you here. Where's my spot? Huh? Is my audio acting weird? Hmm. Where was I? Hey, how do I react to something when it's not going my way? I'm a content creator and I posted a video on my Insta, but the reach has been lower than usual and that affects me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially when we're fairly new with these teachings, and this is a fairly new concept, there's still going to be quite a bit of attachment to the 3D. I mean, that that's just inherently going to be a thing. So if you're noticing a reaction or something in the 3D that's affecting you, revise it. Revise it. So imagine instead that you're looking at the stats for this post, the stats for this post, and seeing that it had a huge reach, right? Like this blew up, it went viral. Whatever sort of combats that, or whatever helps you to tap into the feeling of that state of consciousness versus, you know, whatever may have played out, if that makes sense. But we always want to react to something if it shows up in 3D in a way that's not wanted and that is not desirable. We always want to instead imagine it going a different way, or that it went the way that we would have wanted it to go. Yeah. And if you're not familiar with revision, definitely check out the videos that I've made about it. I made a few, and it's an incredibly powerful tool in our arsenal. So Definitely want to use it. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Sunny Pearl. How to take SP down from the pedestal. I feel like he's so much better than me, / he's up there and I'm down here. What info do I need to know to change this? Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Our beliefs and assumptions can certainly make this feel much more difficult than it has to be. How to take SP down from the pedestal is kind of the entire aim of what we're doing here. Like, if you're manifesting a specific person, that's really one of the main things, like the objectives of what we're aiming to do here. So, you know, a lot of it comes down to taking them down from the pedestal. And we do that through changing our own beliefs and assumptions, like broadly speaking, right? Very general answer is we do that through changing our conception of self. Because when that's changed, we show up differently, other people show up differently, we feel differently, we react differently. Because none of what you just said there is actually true, right? That he's so much better than you, that he's up here and you're down there. None of those are like objective fact. That's just the perception. That's just the belief, right? It just feels very real to you because that's what's been conditioned. I would look into really experiment with different ways of imagining, experiment with different techniques and ways to go about beginning to see yourself as different, see yourself as more confident, see yourself as, you know, deserving and, you know, knowing of the worth, knowing that, you know, of course you're good enough. Of course, you're more than good enough. Like, he's lucky to have you, right? That's the kind of mentality, or that's what we want to be imagining. We want to be imagining the version of us who feels and believes that to be true. And we do that through imagination. We change our beliefs and assumptions. We change our self-concept through imagination. So whatever techniques resonate with you, whatever help you to really capture that feeling of being that version of you, that's how we begin to sort of, yeah, dismantle the pedestal or put yourself up there instead. Yeah. How long was it before manifesting became natural and clicked when you first discovered it? And do you still believe in coincidences? Well, I mean, to the latter, no, there is no such thing as coincidence. Absolutely not. Never a thing is coincidence. Every single thing that happens in our 3D was due to something that we had imagined, period. And we can prove that to ourselves. We can actually show that to be true through self-observation and through building our faith and trust in the law. And how long was it before? It certainly didn't. I'm trying to remember. It took a while. Admittedly, it took a while. When I first found the law of assumption, I was pretty jaded and burned out from the whole idea of manifestation. So I tested the law because Neville would always preach, you know, testing it, you know, build your faith. Don't take my word for this, test it. So I did, not expecting it to work, not expecting it, because I had been studying the law of attraction for like 10 years with very mixed bag results. So I was, at that point, I was just tired. But so I did what Neville said, and sure enough, I couldn't prove it wrong. I couldn't prove it wrong, and I tried. But I want to say, I mean, it was the better part of 2 years until I can say that I was steadfast and solid in my faith. Yeah. Especially for the so-called bigger things, which aren't actually bigger things. I mean, the law doesn't, the law doesn't care. It works the same for everything, no matter how seemingly big or small. But yeah, about 2 years or so. But just because that was my experience, and I want to be clear on this, just because that was my experience does not mean that's going to be the same for you. To be clear, everybody's journey is going to look different. It's going to be different. So yeah. I love how you mentioned it being a process because it absolutely is, and that's okay. Yes. Oh my God, yes. Yes. I had this stupid perfectionist streak and felt like I needed to like master this really fast, or I don't know. It was very much ego based, and it very much just a lot of the self sabotaging perfectionist streaks. We're not going to be perfect. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the human experience. It's we're not perfect. So do not beat yourself up if anyone is in the habit of doing so. Don't do that. Thank you for the super chat, Luna. When I talked to my SP, an influencer, he treated me like a fan. I have many limiting beliefs from society about the 3D. I want to change, but it feels impossible to be the desired self. What approach to take? So, yeah, yeah, we want to see the 3D change, but it feels impossible. Yeah, the first thing that we really want to keep in mind, or the mindset going into this, is that in imagination we can have and experience anything. Like there is literally nothing impossible to experience in imagination. If we continue to take the perceptions of 3D with us, if we continue to take the circumstances and obstacles of the 3D and use it as a reason to not imagine, to not put ourselves there in imagination, that's how we stay stuck. So the important thing right off the bat is to remember that nothing is impossible in your imagination. You can right now, in this moment, imagine being with him, already being with him. Like the two of you traveling together, the two of you getting a place together, that whatever you want that to look like, you can have that experience right now. It doesn't matter. But we have to do away with the 3D. Like we have to shut out the 3D. we cannot take the conditions of the 3D with us into imagination because that will bar us and that will hold us back. So practice when you close your eyes, the 3D doesn't exist anymore. When you close your eyes, the 3D does not exist anymore. And let that be the mentality that you have going into this. Right? Because you're just, all you're doing, all that any of us are doing is structuring that world in our imagination. As far as the outside projection goes, that's not our job consciously. None of that's our job. You are so welcome, Zara Music. Trying to find my spot. I'm new. Your content has helped me a lot. Oh, thank you, Sudan. I'm glad to hear that. Yay. Where was my spot? Sorry, guys. Sorry. I keep getting distracted. Hey, Missy, I have pretty flirty conversations with my SP, but he keeps saying he loves me, but we cannot end up together. What do I do in such cases? Revise it. Revise it. If not on the spot, then definitely revise before bed. Don't take that reality, that circumstance with you into sleep. Change it. Don't accept it. Because the only reason that things are out picturing the way that they are is because that was a seed that we planted. That was an impression that was left, right? If everyone is you pushed out, then we know this. We understand that people show up in a way that we assume them to show up, right? But we don't have to accept it as true. We don't have to accept it as final, ever, 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 ever. So anytime somebody says something, does something, shows up in a way that is not ideal, revise it. Hello, Colonel Moonlight. Hi, Missy. Can you do a collaboration with Joseph Ally? He's looking for people, and you guys have a. I mean, I'd be down. Sure. If we can manifest anything, how would it work that I manifest someone being a little younger than they are? Would they just forget certain years? Would they just look younger? For a celebrity SP? Hell yeah. Uh, how would it work to manifest someone? Well, I mean, if you're not specific, it's going to show up in the way that feels most natural, right? So if what we desire is to have somebody show up seemingly younger, um, then it could be that they just show up looking younger. That's probably going to feel like the most natural or believable way for them to show up. Um, but yeah, and a lot of, I mean, unless you're deliberate in that, you know, you move into the state or reality where they were born in a different year, right? Yeah, I would just imagine them showing up and see them as you would like to see them in your imagination, whatever that looks like to you. Hello, Missy. Quick question. Any tips on how to manifest under pressure / deadlines for financial and moving home? Thank you hugely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Bridget. Um, yeah, I know that this part can be incredibly challenging when there's a deadline, a seemingly real deadline, because we can know and understand that time isn't a thing, but it feels very real in that moment. Um, I mean, the biggest thing is make sure to catch yourself when you're feeling anxious and just do things to help yourself alleviate the anxiety, first and foremost. So, deep breaths, breath work, right? Things to just help you, like meditation, things to sort of help take some of that edge off. Um, because it's going to feel incredibly difficult to imagine something lovely when we're very stressed and tense. It goes without saying. So perhaps you might want to be, more deliberate or more often do things like breath work, do things that will help you to naturally alleviate some of that anxiety and pressure, so to speak. Um, I mean, the second thing, and this is maybe an awesome opportunity to have this happen, but to the best of your ability, to the best of your ability, keep your focus and attention inwards in this time. Like, I know we're supposed to do that anyways, but even more so if it feels like there is a perceived deadline, it is all that more important to practice keeping the focus in here as much as possible. So, deliberately turning our attention back to the internal world and just practice doing that. Because the irony, of course, is that the more that we're fixated on the deadline, the more that we're noticing that creeping up on us, that just is going to feel all the much more hard and difficult to maintain that state of the wish fulfilled. So this truly is going to be a practice of going within and doing that and living in the imagination, like already experiencing whatever it is that you desire. It's already finished and it's already gone in your favor, and deliberately and consistently get yourself back there. The moment that you notice any feelings of anxiousness or noticing the time, Take some deep breaths, center yourself, go back within. 70 times 7. Hi, Missy. There's a desire that I want to happen fast, like as soon as possible. Can I imagine it happen tomorrow just to satisfy my hunger? Absolutely. You can imagine it right now. You can give yourself the experience of whatever it is right now. In fact, that's what you want to do, right? So imagine having that experience and like to satisfy that hunger, right? Yeah. Yeah, I would insist on constructing and maintaining that and continue to go back to that experience and until that hunger feels satisfied. Hmm. Hi, Missy. I know we should keep returning to the wish fulfilled, but when manifesting an X, should we let the seed that is planted be and let it unfold, or keep going back in imagination? Good question. It really depends on if we're double-minded or not. I mean, it only takes once to leave that impression. It only takes one time to plant that seed, and then it's done. We can literally drop it and go about our lives. But if we are double-minded, if we are noticing perhaps some of the old ways of thinking, the old ways of the old fears or doubts or anything like that, if we start to notice that coming up, that's our cue that we need to move back into that state, right? That we have fallen out of the state of the wish fulfilled, so we want to move back. And so it really depends on whether or not you are double-minded. Um, which I mean, it's not a big deal if you are. Many people on this journey find themselves double-minded at times. It happens. But yeah, that's sort of that's sort of the gauge. If you are able to imagine it, lock it and drop it, like you can leave it be. You can leave it be. But if you're noticing things in conflict, if you're perhaps getting fearful or anxious or checking the 3D or anything like that, I would go back to the wish fulfilled. I hope that makes sense. That is such a cool sweatshirt. Thanks. Yeah. I just got a motorcycle, so I'm sporting a Honda. Hello, Mimi. Oh my goodness, thank you for the super chat. Great channel, thanks for sharing. Thank you, Lions fan. Thank you. Appreciate you, sir. What was that? I feel like I'm succeeding in changing my self concept, but I've noticed something that has made me panic, a feeling of void, complete emptiness, and like time itself is slowing down. Am I nuts? No, no, you're not nuts. What you're describing is normal. Yeah, yeah. Um, because when changing the self concept, there are aspects of that ego self that is going to die, right? That's why Neville would say things like, kill the old man, kill that old self. Um, because any kind of a change to the self is, in, a, in effect, a death. Obviously, not a physical death, but there is going to be dying to parts of your old way of being. Um, and that can feel weird. It can almost feel like a void. It can feel, um, yeah, all sorts of interesting sensations can show up, experiences come up, um, a shift in feeling. That is normal. That is normal. I certainly had moments like what you're describing. Um, it will continue to become more familiar with that new state as you continue to uh, condition that new state and that new concept of self. You will, what you're describing will start to go away as you get more familiar with it. I hope that makes sense. Do you use music anytime during meditation? I was also curious if there were any steps to the flowing goddess meditation. Divine music houses my flowing divinity state, as I like to call it. I love that, Northwest Wind. And yeah, sometimes I'll use music. Not every time. I'm one of those weird people that genuinely enjoy going into the silence. I didn't used to. The thought of, you know, being in my mind, silently used to be terrifying, but so most of the time I'm going into the silence. But yeah, sometimes I'll have music, sometimes I'll have, you know, noise like brown noise or pink noise or anything like that. Binaural beats. Yeah, absolutely. And we can absolutely incorporate any of that if it helps us to really get into it, if that makes sense. If it makes it easier, yeah. And steps to the flowing goddess meditation? Mm, not that I recall. I mean, other than, of course, first just get myself deeply relaxed. But then the scene would sort of come together naturally. I didn't force it. There was no forcing of any kind. Um, I would just imagine I would be in that deep, relaxing meditation, and I would have the feeling of like a glowing center in my chest, is what I would be imagining. And the scene would sort of like construct on its own. It was an incredibly powerful feeling. That is absolutely for sure. Stay safe on the motorbike. I absolutely will. I absolutely will. Would you say you have no worries after mastering them? I mean, generally speaking, so I don't want to pretend like I don't have human moments, right? We all still have human moments. Everybody does. Everybody will. That's kind of the point of being human. Um, but do I worry about anything? No. Mm-mm. No. What need is there to worry about? Like, what is the point of that? I guess. Yeah. No, I can't say so much. But that's not to say that I'm perfect all the time or never have human moments. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to get that idea in though. Where was I? Mhm. I heard your SP story, Missy. Are you still together or got back together after the second time? After you had worked on your own past and stayed? Yeah, we're still together. Almost 6 years? 2018? Is that math right? Yeah, yeah. Got back together January 2018. It's still going. Hi, Missy. I am a newer subscriber. Welcome, Renee. Also, good name. I have never heard this question asked, but I was wondering if it was possible to reverse a surgery I was made to have due to poor health at the time. Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can revise anything. Absolutely anything. I know it may feel difficult to believe that. Um, we don't even need to believe it per se. We don't have to go in with the condition of believing it because we can imagine things regardless, right? We are capable of imagining that something had gone differently instead, that you didn't have that surgery instead, right? Yeah, absolutely you can. Good morning, Missy. Good morning. Can you speak about desires that you have but think they are too large or impossible to attain? I have one specific desire that is wonderful, but it seems impossible to have. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, this is hands down the most common stumbling block for a lot of people. Feeling like our desires are impossible based on our 3D circumstances, um, or that they're too large. I mean, first, nothing about what we desire is too large for God. And I would have to remind myself of that sometimes. Like, would this be too large for God? Could God not do this? No, I mean, of course, God can do anything. That's the point, right? As the operant power, anything is possible. Anything is, we can experience anything that we want. Um, Kind of like what I mentioned a couple of questions back. I may not have been here to hear it, but we really want to practice getting in the mentality of, in imagination, anything is possible. In our imagination, anything is possible. So instead of perceiving this as trying to change the 3D, we're only changing ourself because there is no one to change but self, right? And that's what that means. That all that we're doing consciously is imagining ourselves differently, imagining ourselves experiencing whatever it may be, because we absolutely can experience anything that we desire in imagination, right? But where we get stuck is trying to change the 3D. We're trying to mess with the mirror before we've changed ourselves. Well, it's not going to work, right? So the mindset always needs to be that in imagination, all things are possible because they are. Nobody has resistance to that notion. We all know that we can imagine anything, right? So that's what we're doing. That's what you're doing. And allow yourself to imagine to the point of believability until it feels real, until it feels like it's something that is actually happening or has already happened. But if we take the conditions and beliefs about the 3D with us, we're barring ourselves effectively. We have to do away with the idea of needing to make the 3D change. That's not our job. Not our job. Hmm. Hi, Missy, my exams are over and I am back. I missed these lives. Welcome back. Welcome back, Live, Laugh, Slay. I love your name too. I'm having trouble detaching. Like I'm not thinking about anything negative. And every time I have unconsciously manifested, the moment I completely forgot about it, it came to fruition instantly. Yep. Yep. Yeah. As soon as we are not fixated on it, that's when it shows up. Hmm. And the thing with detaching is it's not something that we it's going to feel very challenging to consciously try to detach. That's more something that happens naturally. Like we will naturally begin to detach from any and old states of consciousness, fears, doubts, feelings of desire, desiring. Those will all naturally fade as we continue to live in the end, right? But if we try to force ourselves to detach, that's gonna, yeah, it's not gonna have much luck with that. Don't recommend trying to bring it about through willpower or force. Um, the more that you are conditioned to that state of the wish fulfilled, you will naturally, you know, it should naturally begin to feel more real to you. It should naturally begin to feel more familiar to you. And as that happens, we're not going to be as fixed on it, looking for it, desiring it, right? We can't desire. We don't desire things that we already have. Yeah. So, I mean, the practice is all about continuing to familiarize yourself with that new state and imagination and allowing yourself to have the experience and trust that this is real, right? Let yourself have the reactions and the, everything that goes into a 3D experience. Let yourself have that in imagination because you can. Yeah. We continue to get familiar with that state, we'll naturally detach from all of the old. Come to Sweden and teach. Absolutely, I'll come to Sweden. Hell yeah. Would it come naturally if I keep persisting till it feels natural? Yes. Yes. That's where persistence comes in. The persistence part of this is going back to that state until it becomes natural. Going back to that state until it becomes natural. If we fall out of that state, we go back. If we fall out of that state, we go back. 70 times 7. Hmm. Exactly right. I'm wondering, how do I go about manifesting an SP that I created by scripting down, but they don't actually exist? Well, but they do exist. You just haven't met them yet. But they absolutely, like, trust that what you are imagining is real. It exists. Like these things that we imagine are not fantasy or fiction. They are actual real states of consciousness, right? So if you have scripted out and imagined, a new person and all of the qualities and characteristics and traits of this person, it's real. Trust that. And if you, I mean, if you feel doubtful, then go back to it. Go back to it as many times as needed until it starts to feel more and more real to you. I hope I'm making sense. I relate so hard to the perfectionism too. These last 2 months, I'm finally over that. Thanks to you, Mr. Oh, thank you, Northwest Wind. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Good. What is your manifestation routine when you want something new, step by step? Good question. I mean, for myself personally, it really does depend. More often than not, I'm utilizing Isn't It Wonderful? That one is pretty much always my go to. If there is something specific that I desire, I'll use SATS, visualization in the state akin to sleep. But that said, the reason that I pause to answer these questions because what works for me and my routine may not work for you, and that's okay. What we don't want to do is try to force ourselves to do these techniques in a way that is invoking a lot of conscious willpower and effort. Manifestation is effortless. Imagining should be effortless. It should feel enjoyable, it should feel relaxable. We should be having a good time. And that's really the key. So, whatever ways that you naturally enjoy, that come most naturally to you, be that visualization, be that affirmations, inner conversations, whatever that looks like for you, continue to do that. Continue to do that. Because hands down, that's how it's going to come to you the fast. This is the past of least effort and least resistance. Yeah. You are welcome, Luna. Revision still blows my mind no matter how much I revise. I'm so grateful to know the law. Same. Yeah, revision still blows my mind too. As you experienced events in the promise, did your faith in the law build as you progressed? Thanks. Absolutely, it did, Sarah. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. It was still a process for sure. It was a progression to get to that place of unwavering faith. Yeah. Happy Sunday on a Sunday afternoon. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Mohammed. You as well, sir. I watch your SB videos, so inspiring. My situation is very similar. I heard you did SATs, read the piercing for only 2 weeks, but you mentioned it took 3 years. Did you stop all techniques afterwards? So, just to clarify, the 3 years was the total time that we were separated. But I was not in that entirety time trying to manifest him back. In fact, I didn't even find Neville until about a year or so after we broke up. Um, and so I had sort of given up basically after the second breakup. After I found Neville, I got into a period of testing the law and getting familiar, building my trust with that uh, before I turned my attention to manifesting him back. And I mean, even then, yes, it probably was a year and a half or so because I didn't know what I was doing and I was making all the mistakes and all the things that, all the things that we get stuck on. Um, Once I had that understanding, once I had that epiphany moment, realized what I was doing, yeah, he showed up like that. You shut up like that. Did you stop all techniques afterwards? Um, After the piercing? I think so. I don't remember if I was doing anything else. If you've forgiven and there's no resentment, do you have to have that person in your life? Mm-mm. No, no. It's your reality. It's your world. You're the operant power of it. You decide. You don't have to have somebody in your life if that's not what you desire. You can absolutely part ways with those. I love to hear that you revised and that there's no resentment. We absolutely don't want to harbor resentment, right? But we're not obligated to keep somebody in our life because whatever. No, no, it is absolutely your call. Hey Missy, is this manifesting stuff really true? Did my SP leave me because of my thinking? Well, first, I'm sorry to hear that. But yes, yes, this manifestation is real. Don't take my word for it, though. Sincerely, do not take my word for it. Like, test it, prove it to yourself. Prove it to yourself. Prove it right or prove it wrong. But yes, it is very real. Yes. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all you do. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Oh, thank you, Kelly. You too. Oh, that's right. It's almost Turkey Day. I completely forgot. That's this Thursday coming up, isn't it? Damn. I manifested my husband when I was 18. He was just an imaginary person I didn't know. Taking what I wanted and deserved off a pedestal and improving self confidence helped a lot, and not settling. Yes. Yes, pineapple. I love that. That's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. Don't ever settle, guys. Don't ever settle for anything less than what you absolutely desire. Do not sell yourself short. Can I manifest my initial contact with my SP with the assumption and belief attached to it that it leads to the state of the wish fulfilled of us being married and living together? Um, so can you manifest in steps? Is that, if I'm understanding right? Manifest the initial contact with the assumption that it will lead to the state of the wish fulfilled? I mean, you can, yeah. So long as you are able to persist in that assumption and not get wrapped up in 3D. That's really the only thing that, when it comes to breaking this up into steps, it's easy for us to get wrapped up in 3D and get veered off course, so to speak. Um, I always do recommend, if so long as we are able to, we should always go to the end. We should always experience an imagination as if it is already done, because it is. Once we have imagined it, that imaginal act is a real state of consciousness. It's not fantasy, right? So going to the end assures you that contact will be initiated. All the things that you want to see happen will have to happen, right? But yeah. I heard someone say on YouTube that the 3D is as relevant as a 1976 weather report or some other random year, since it is more or less a past manifestation. I like that. I like that a lot because, yeah, essentially, everything that we're seeing in 3D in this present moment is just the past. These are all things that have been outpictured from what we imagined yesterday, a week ago, a month ago. That's why it is repeatedly said to take the attention away from 3D. Because, yeah, it is about as useful as watching a weather report from 1976 to gauge what's going to happen tomorrow. Makes no sense. No sense. Missy, how do you get rid of double mindedness? It feels so hard. Yeah, yeah, I can. Yeah. We get rid of double mindedness through building trust in the law, building our faith in the law. I mean, even more importantly than the desire itself and the belief in the desire itself, faith in the law is going to help tremendously. Mm-hmm. But the more that we practice exercising and strengthening that imagination muscle, it will become easier and easier. You will naturally notice yourself becoming less and less double minded. Yeah. What do you do when you want something new but you don't have a specific idea? It's more of a general feeling of freedom. I love that. So, something more of a general feeling, I would use Isn't It Wonderful, also known as the lullaby method. And if you haven't heard of that before, you can check out the video that I made about it. If you type in the search bar Missy Renee lullaby method, that should pop right up. But or any video about Isn't It Wonderful? But that's more centered around the general feeling, that feeling of freedom, that feeling of satisfaction, that feeling of relief, whatever that might be for you. Yeah. Yeah, a couple questions popping up about double mindedness and how to remove it. Double mindedness will naturally go away. It will naturally cease the more that we are conditioned with that new state of consciousness, right? So the more and more that we occupy that new state in imagination, that inner experience, and the more that we do that, we're going to become naturally less and less double minded because we're essentially acclimating ourselves to that new reality by doing so. So, yeah. Also, of course, it certainly helps to have trust in the law. We do not want to overlook faith. Faith is an important aspect to all of this. Not that we have to believe 1000% going into this, but it is going to be very, very helpful for us if we do have an unwavering faith that what we imagine is, in fact, what becomes 3D experience. Hi, Maria. Hi. Hello. Thank you for being real, saying you still have human moments. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we're still human. As far as Missy Renee is concerned, yeah, she ain't perfect. No way. Oh my god, thank you, ENZ, for the super chat. I did not even get a notification for that. I'm so sorry. How to go in when mind is prone to wander. Do we pick an affirmation? Um, yeah. The mind wandering is completely normal. In fact, most of us are getting into this practice we're going to have mind wandering a lot. Um, there's a meditation I strongly recommend called the focused attention meditation, where even just a minute or two of this meditation will make all the difference in the world. Sincerely, it helped me so much. Um, I mean, you can look it up on Google, or essentially where we pick something to keep our focus on. Usually, it's something like the physical sensation of the breath, and we just keep our attention there. And when our mind wanders, we just practice gently bringing it back. We practice the redirection. Um, yeah, that one greatly helped me. And with practice in general, just strengthening that imagination, we're going to notice less and less wandering. We're going to become a lot more strengthened and disciplined with our mind and where it goes. But at first, that's normal. That's very normal. Our mind is kind of this wild animal that just does whatever it wants. Do you have advice how to take care of ourselves in 3D while ignoring it? Persisting is important, but paradoxically, we also have to relax and be in the best place regardless. I realized I was neglecting my 3D. Good question. Yeah. Yeah, this part, it's easy to overlook self care because we're supposed to ignore the 3D and everything in it. Don't overlook taking care of yourself. Yeah. Like have a day for yourself once a week where you, you know, do something nice for yourself. You get yourself a massage, take a bubble bath, right? Uh, make something in your routine where you go for a nice walk or something that you find relaxing, something that you find enjoyable. Yeah, don't forget or overlook it. This journey has all sorts of peaks and valleys, and absolutely we might have moments that feel especially difficult. Uh, don't try to suppress it. Don't try to ignore it. Honor those moments. It's again, it's okay to be human. We are human. That's kind of the whole point. Yeah, yeah. But find things that you naturally enjoy, and make sure you incorporate those as well. It's easy to make manifestation our entire world and put everything else on the back burner. There's no need. There's no need. Yeah. Where was I? I didn't know your story was similar to mine. I'm struggling with shifting fear to trust. Yeah, yeah. Which is why we want to make sure that we are continuing to build our faith in the law. Like, I know for a lot of people, we want so badly to believe this to be true. We want so bad to believe, but we may not fully believe. And that's where double mindedness comes from, basically. So, through observation, we will naturally begin to see the connection between the inner and the outer world. The more and more that we are aware and paying attention, we're going to naturally notice that everything that we experience on the outside first came from in here. We just fail to see that connection sometimes because 95% of the day we're on autopilot. We're not paying attention to the thoughts, reactions, moods that we're having. Um, but the more that we start to pay attention and observe, we will see that everything out here first started in here, no matter what. And that is going to naturally build your faith. So you're not even trying to do anything. You're not trying to manifest anything. It's just purely and naturally observing what's going on in here and what's taking place out here. And you can even go into the past and note times where the law was in effect for you, right? Go back to a period where something happened and note what your mindset was around that time. So that's the best way to naturally begin to build your faith. And that's what's going to help eliminate a lot of that fear. Yeah. Yeah. We should be doing that more and more daily, regardless. Hi, Missy. Is it normal to get to a stage where it feels more real in my imagination than real life? Yep. Yep, that's normal. In fact, that's what we want. We want to get to a place where our imagination feels just as real as the 3D, as the real world. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Missy. This is my first time catching you live. I'm excited. Your channel's awesome. Thank you, Blessed. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Missy, last week you weren't able to answer this. I have a desire to do a special VIP day with you learning about manifestation. Others were also interested. Is this my desire or yours? Well, I mean, if it came from you, it is a desire that you have. Though I will say I have been um, thinking lately about doing in-person meetups, talking with my husband about it, and he's totally down. So, but in your reality, that's all you, bud. What should I do if my manifestation is not working? Like I'm seeing no results. How to speed it up? Please see this if you can, and thanks. Good question. And I need to know something about this because your manifestation is always working. The law of assumption is always working. It's never not working. If you're not seeing what you desire, if you're not seeing the results, it's because where you are here is different than what you desire. So you may be desiring something, but internally you may still be playing into old fears, doubts, anything like that. Essentially double-mindedness. But if we're very observant and very honest with ourselves, the law is always working. So if things are not showing up in the way that you want, turn within. Begin to really observe what are the things that naturally come up for you in the day to day in here. Like, what are your thoughts? What are your reactions? What are your moods? What is the internal dialogue that you're having? And does that line up with what you desire? Does the natural inner dialogue in your day to day line up with what you're desiring? If that answer is no, that's what we need to change. But yeah, the law is always working. Always, always, always. Hello, Bev. Welcome. Hey, Missy, what if SP is saying disrespectful things and making me feel like I should value myself more and walk away? I'm like, nope, not dealing with this version. How do you recommend dealing with this? Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, I mean, number one, I wouldn't deal with it. I wouldn't put up with it, and you shouldn't either. Don't accept that. Don't accept it. So I would first revise it. Always, always, always revise. If people are showing up in a way that is not ideal, first step is always revise. And then continue to go back to seeing him in your mind only as you desire to see him show up. Yeah, absolutely. Do not tolerate or accept anything that is not what you desire, ever. Can you explain what the feeling of naturalness feels like and what to do after you reach that state? Good question. I mean, the feeling of naturalness is, I mean, how do I put it into words even? It feels natural. Um, I mean, think about something that you have now. Think about something that you already know to be true. Um, you have a car, maybe. I don't know. Like for example, I know that I live in California. I know that I have a truck. I know that I have a cat. Um, these, like, the thought of these things feel natural to me. So that there's not going to be any confliction because I already know and believe them to be true, right? So the feeling of naturalness is the feeling of acceptance that this is done and this is now a fact in your world, right? And once you reach that state, there's nothing left you need to do. As far as consciously or deliberately, there's nothing you need to do. Maintaining that state, basically. So if you notice yourself perhaps falling back into old thoughts, old patterns, or old fears, that's a cue to redirect. That means we want to move ourselves back into that state of the wish fulfilled. Imagine again until we get to that place of naturalness, feeling like it's already done, right? So yeah. Can I stop an eviction with revision? It's urgent. Oh my goodness, Amy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. 100%. You can revise anything. Even if it feels impossible in 3D, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is not at all about what is or isn't possible in 3D. This is about what is or isn't possible in imagination. And that part needs to be emphasized over and over again. This is not about what is possible or impossible in 3D. This is about what is possible or impossible in imagination. Right? Thank you for the super chat, Melody. I feel a general feeling of freedom, a state where there are no worries, and I have no specific scene. How can we manifest a general state? Well, it sounds like you're already doing that. Feeling into the general sense of freedom. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I mean, we manifested the meaning for the medium of feeling, right? And by feeling it not emotion per se, though there may be emotions tied to it, but it's more the feeling of acceptance that this is done, that this is just how it is now, right? The feeling of completion. Yeah. But and I think you may have asked a question earlier. I don't know if you heard my response, but in case you didn't hear my response, check out the lullaby method, also known as "Isn't It Wonderful?" Yeah, that one is great for more general feeling, general state of consciousness. Yeah. What do you do when thinking of your desired outcome becomes mundane? How do you interpret this when manifesting? Do you still persist in the wish fulfilled? Um, when you no longer have any desire or urge to imagine that wish fulfilled, you can drop it. You can drop it because you will get to a point where it sort of feels mundane. That's sort of the cue to drop it and you can move on to something else. Yeah, don't ever try to force yourself to keep going if you don't feel the need or want to. What happens when we revise? Does the other person forget what happened? Typically speaking, yeah. Hmm. I mean, revision is just altering a memory from the past, right? But through altering that memory, because memory is just an imaginal act, nothing more, nothing less. So when we alter that memory, it's going to start appearing in the future differently. Things are going to start unfolding from that new memory versus the old one. So, yeah, yeah, the person will forget. Hmm. Yep. Does your Manifest Your SP course help with manifesting new love? Thanks, Missy. Absolutely, it does. Yeah, yeah. Whether it's a specific person or a brand new person you haven't met yet, absolutely. Have you ever witnessed physical body revisions or manifestations? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have seen radical change. Yeah. Recently, I've been feeling the sense of peace and the feeling that we are together, but then I look at the 3D and I get a bit thrown off. How to bring and keep it? Oh, I know. I know. The damn 3D will continue to throw us through a loop. It really, I know this part may be challenging more than any part of all of this, but it has to be a practice of bringing your attention back from the 3D and getting to a place where we can accept that what we imagine is real, that like that is not a fantasy, it's not a fiction. What we're seeing in 3D is all old outpictured news. It's all old, it's all like nothing out there is of any importance. And I know it's going to feel very different. We're so conditioned to the 3D circumstances, but if it's felt in imagination, that is real. That is an actual creative act. We have to continue to come back to that. Yeah. And 3D is an old 1976 weather report. That's all it is. Hey, Missy, my separation with my SP was end of January. Today is my birthday, and I was anticipating my SP to message me, but he still hasn't, and it's made me sad. Shall I revise? Absolutely. Absolutely revise. 100%. Yeah. And again, I know it can be difficult when the 3D is not appearing in the way that we want it to appear. But this truly is the practice of strengthening our imagination so that it's imagination that begins to feel real versus fake or fantasy. It's just a muscle that hasn't been exercised. But the more that we exercise that muscle, it's going to feel like that imaginal act is going to feel like a memory. Like this is something that actually happened, right? That's what we want to aim to get to. That's what this practice is about. And for those asking questions about how to deal with the 3D versus imagination, not believing our imagination, I do have a video coming out right after this live, shortly after this live, talking more about it, talking more about that. But really, we want to continue to practice strengthening the imagination until that is what feels real to us. Because if we're continuing to see the 3D as the real world and imagination as fiction, that's the double-mindedness right there. That's what's going to make it feel impossible. That's why we're going to continue to check the 3D for confirmation, even though the 3D is just an old weather report. It's not anything. it's nothing, right? Yeah. So definitely keep your eyes out for the video that it's about to come out after this live stream. My new coaching name is Bev. Oh, I was at a concert on the weekend and this random woman in the same row as me started to talk to. Her partner showed me his Facebook page and Bev O was written. I love it. As there is no death, once we consciously know the law and use it, do we ever forget if we die again? Wondering if this ties in with the promise. Good question. Do you mean forget everything that we've learned up until that point? Like when we come back, do we keep everything that we learned so far? Well, we do that anyways, right? There are some aspects that we take with us into the next round, so to speak. They'll usually show up in the forms of intuition and things like that. Yeah. And if I'm misunderstanding your question, let me know. But yeah, we continue to take things with us each time, we die and come back, because death is not an actual thing. Like physical death is not an actual thing. We're always continuing to grow and evolve on this journey. We'll continue to do so. And yeah, we'll continue to take with us things that we've learned or experienced. Absolutely. I hope that makes sense. But if I misunderstood the question, let me know. How long typically do you notice birds before land happening before your 3D conforms? I've been seeing for weeks and days birds before land. Do I just persist with what I've been doing? Absolutely persist in going to the end. Absolutely persist in going to the end. If we continue to get distracted by the 3D, it's taking our attention away from the end. Because I made a video about birds before land not too long ago. It's, a handful of videos back, but if we get caught up in signs and looking for signs, it's sidetracking us from what we ultimately want to do, and that is live in the end. Because we're not going to know what the bridge of incidents looks like until we are on the other side of it. Like we'll see in hindsight that was a bridge, but we're not going to see definitive proof of our manifestation before it shows up. That's not a thing. So keep the attention on living in the end. I'm starting my manifestation journey with my SP, but just recently saw today that there's a third party and feeling a little discouraged. Any advice is greatly appreciated. What third party? What are you talking about? No, there's not. Absolutely not. Revise any of that. Revise any and all of that. None of that happened. None of that is taking place. You, as the operant power, are deciding in every single moment what state you occupy. That is what reality to experience. No, there is no such thing as competition. There is no such thing as third parties or other people or anything that we deem as, any kind of competition. It's not real. If everyone is thus pushed out, if everything is thus pushed out, then This is all just, everything we're seeing in the 3D today is just old manifestations just now coming to pass. No matter. No matter. Revise it. Practice keeping your attention strictly on that end. Thank you for the super chat, ENZ. I don't know why I'm not seeing notifications for it. That is really bizarre. Is self-concept the best way when same things keep popping up? Is self-concept... I'm a little confused by your question. Is self-concept the best? Well, so yeah, ultimately the aim is to reach that change in self-concept. We do want to ultimately change the self-concept, but we do that through imagining the end, right? Imagining experiencing the end and continuing to go back there as many times as needed, right? If that's what you mean. I keep getting the same results with different people because everyone is pushed out. Yeah, we're going to see people showing up, different people showing up, perhaps in the same manner or in the same circumstances. Yeah. So until we start to see them differently, until we start to imagine differently. Yeah. And that's the entire point. We want to begin to consciously and deliberately imagine something different than perhaps what we've always known and experienced. Ooh. Is there a difference between law of assumption and attraction? Yes. Now, some people might disagree on this. There are, of course, things that they have in common. But the main difference is also the biggest and most important difference, and why I no longer follow the law of attraction, because the law of attraction implies that there is a power outside of you, that, the universe is the co-creator with you, and that you need to, match your vibration with the thing that you desire, and then the universe gives it to you. Nothing is outside of you. Everything is coming from you. Everything is coming from within. You hold the power completely. There is no co-creator. You are 100% the creator in your reality. And everything that you can possibly experience, you want to experience first in imagination, because that is what becomes out pictured, right? But it all first comes from within. So that we're not attracting things from the outside in. We're expressing things from the inside out. So yeah, big distinction, big distinction. I just want to say thank you for your time. Oh, thank you, Santa. You are so welcome. I love being here with you guys. So I suppose I should just keep imagining being here for Christmas, etc., without knowing the how. Yes. Yes. Continue to imagine something that implies that you are still there. So imagining that it's Christmas and you're waking up Christmas morning in your house, everything's perfect, everything is wonderful. You're opening presents, and allow yourself to imagine till you reach that point of relief. It should feel like relief. We'll never know the how. And that's something that we want to try to make peace with. That's something that we have to make peace with, is that we'll never, ever, ever consciously know how something's going to unfold. And that's okay, because that's not our job. That's not our job. That is 100% the higher self, the bigger self. That is awareness. That is I am. We will never know the how. And that's okay. Who was I? Sorry, guys. I want to manifest my ex back. I'm certain that we're right for each other. Where should I start revising in our old story? Right at the first undesirable moment and go chronologically? Yeah, that's one way you can do it. Hmm. Yeah, there's multiple ways that we can revise. We're just imagining the past differently than perhaps what we remember experiencing. So yeah, we can start at the first undesirable thing. And I wouldn't even say that you would need to go in chronological order, if I mean, unless that resonates with you. But if you revise at the first instance of something bad happening, that's going to imply that none of the other things that followed, all of that would have to change too, if that makes sense. So yeah, but I would start with whatever memory or instance pops up the most. Like if there's something big that happened, if there's a memory perhaps that feels like it's constantly coming up for you, um, something that is keeping you from living in the end or imagining what you desire, I would 100% start with that. Yeah. How do we identify our limiting beliefs? Self observation. Self observation. Observing the natural thoughts, reactions, day to day interactions, right? Because all of that's feedback pointing to the beliefs and assumptions that we hold, the dominant beliefs and assumptions that we hold. So, how other people show up for us, how the 3D unfolds for us, how we naturally think and feel and react in our day to day, that's all going to point to the beliefs and assumptions that you carry. Yeah. All right, I got a couple more minutes. Is it true that circumstances do not matter? I want my SP to forget when we broke up as I overreacted. It is 1000% true that circumstances don't matter. 1000 million billion. I mean, as far as do you need to take these things into consideration in order to manifest? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But when we say circumstances don't matter, that means in imagination. Everything that we've learned from these teachings, circumstances don't matter, time is not linear, you are the operant power, we want to remember that that means in imagination. So in imagination, circumstances don't matter because you can imagine something different than what the 3D is currently showing you now, right? So regardless of what happened in the past, regardless of what appears to be showing up around you, you can always imagine differently, no matter what. And that's what this practice is all about. It's practicing imagining something different and allowing ourselves to go into this as if we're having that experience, like for real, right? But yeah, nothing is final, nothing is solid in this 3D world. It absolutely can change no matter what. No matter what. Will you keep the stream up? I want to watch it. Absolutely. Well, you absolutely be able to go back and watch it. Um, yeah, once I hit end stream, it will pop back up as like a recorded session that you'll be able to watch from the beginning. Yeah. Can't wait for the new video. Yeah. If I once imagined something bad with SP, but now I'm focusing on the good things, what will play out? Is it whatever I focus on grows only? Absolutely. Well, we want to know what are our reactions? What are the feelings associated with what we're imagining? Um, but yes, don't, like predominantly, whatever you focus on the most is what will become 3D experience. Yeah. But if we do have something that is not ideal show up, or we react in a way that's, you know, related to the old story or unwanted, we just want to revise it. Revision is how we sort of uproot that old seed. You can think of subconscious impressions like planting seeds in the mind. And if we want to dig up a seed, perhaps that was not desirable or not ideal, we do so through the power of revision. It's just imagining something different had happened instead. So basically, if I want a wife, I have to, in my imagination, get in the feeling of having a wife, a ring, etc. And when I open the eyes in 3D, know that I have a wife. Mm-hmm. That is correct. That is correct, good sir. If others are a reflection of us, do their beliefs equal our beliefs? So other people are going to show up in a way that we assume that they're going to show up. So their beliefs are going to be what we believe that they believe. So if I have the belief that my coworker is a total jackass and he's so rude and he always shows up like this, that doesn't mean that I per se like think that that's like a exact mirror of me. It just means that I assume that he's a jackass, so he's going to show up as a jackass, right? So whatever we believe about them is how they're going to continue to show up. I relish not knowing. I relish not having to know the how. Yes, yes. It's never. We're never going to know the how. Be at peace with it. On that note, you guys, I do unfortunately need to get going. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you had a blast. I know I had a really great time. Excellent questions today. Much love. And I apologize if I did not get to your question today, but rest assured I will be back next Sunday. So I hope to see you all then. Take care, everybody. Love you all. Till next time.